Okay, thank you, Hani. First of all, a very good evening to our VIP society, representative from India and China, and also ladies and gentlemen. Well, actually, economy of Japan started to develop after the World War II. But before that, in 1920s, Japan actually facing economic starvation. This is because they progressed toward democratic government system. However, the system wasn't strong enough to face with the economy and political pressure on the time. Thus, price collapse and long stagnation begins. Okay. Between 1929 to 1940s, there is an economic depression around the world, which was originated in US. Okay, and this depression affected a lot of countries in the world, including Japan, which is also known as the Great Depression. The depression only lasts after the World War II start, which is between 1939 to 1945. And as we all know, there was a war between US and Japan. And Japan lost to US in this war because they are out of resources. Hence, they are unable to fight in the war. Between 1945 until 1960s, Japan focused on restructuring and rebuilding its country. And economy in Japan growth peaked in mid-1960s and in 1970s, which at this time the industrial activities focused on heavy industries, iron, steel, machine tools, motor vehicles, and electronic devices. In the 1970s, there was an oil crisis, and due to high price of oil at that time, there was a high demand for energy-saving cars around the world, and Japan succeeded in improving its position in the world by developing lighter and more economical vehicles. However, in 1980s, the price of Japanese export increasing, and this affected their competitiveness in the market. And in 1997-1998, there was an Asian economic crisis, and this crisis badly affected the economy of Japan due to decreasing in export, fell in employment salaries, as well as dropping in consumer spending, lead to negative growth in Japan's economy. Okay. And in 2000, there's a sign of recovery in economy with increasing in stock prices, as well as growth in revenue in certain industries, and the growth continued to improve until 2007 with a growing demand for Japanese products in Asia, as well as rapid growth in industries related to information technology. However, in 2008, there is another crisis originated from the US, which is subprime mortgage crisis, and this crisis badly affected the economy because US is the largest trading partner for Japan. And until the first half of 2010, the economic growth in Japan fell from 4.6% last year to 3.8% this year. And the next slide, just to show you briefly on how the economy of Japan booming after the World War II, leaving behind China, Indonesia, and India.
So, as the graph shows that Japan actually started to expand in 1950, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, and then we can see that it grows so rapidly.
Yes, because they depend a lot on exports.
Yeah, okay.
So let's enjoy a short clip that we have prepared for you.
Okay. Interesting. So that was what happened in Japan before and after World War II. So we have heard from Japan. Now let's move on to India. Ms. Jason Kapoor, how about your country?
Alright, now let us have a brief review on the timeline of India's economy before and after the rise of economy in the country. I have divided the rise of economy into 4 stages. First, I will briefly explain the post-independence years. Then I will move on to devaluation and liberalization. And last but not least is India's current situation. India in 1947 was characterized as very low in per capita income. There was manufacturing sector, but however it didn't cover many industries. The policy provided by the government are more tended towards protectionism with a strong emphasis on import substitution. And there was a lot of business regulation being regulated during that time. So one of the example is license rush. It was existed as India wanted to have a well-planned economy during that time. All of the aspects of the economy were controlled by the state. License of operation of businesses only given to few of the businesses which been selected by the state. And government would then regulate the operation of the businesses. So India moved to devaluation in 1966. The education system in India was very skewed. Illiteracy continued as many can't learn, read or even write. And the economy grew rather slowly during that time, which is around 3 to 4% per year. And during that time, the poverty rate was increasing because the Indian population was growing at 2.5% per year. But the GDP only going up with 3.5% per year. Then India started to open up its market in 1991.
I guess this was the turning point of India when they launched the market.
Exactly. And during that time, India started to open up its market to cope with the poverty rate, which shows serious problem in the country during that time. Government started to ease restriction on capacity expansion, remove price control, and even reduce the corporate taxes. Therefore, there was increase in life expectancy, literacy rate, and also food security in the country. So today, more than half of the workforce is in agriculture sector. However, service sector is a major source of the economic growth in India.
Alright, Ms. Jen, can you name example of services that India provides?
Some of the example of service sector is IT consulting and application management. So more and more well-educated people who skill in English lead India to become an exporter of software services and also software workers. There was an industrial slowdown in 2008 because of global financial crisis. The fiscal deficit was increasing due to subsidies and programs provided for farmers and rural workers. But however, over the span of the year, the economy showed remarkable recovery.
Oh, that's interesting. So basically, India have explained when they launched the open market policy. So for China, I have some interesting information, which is China, for information, before 1993 possessed the most advanced societies and economies in the world, but it then missed the Industrial Revolution and then it became decline. So Ms. Afina Zinanji, can you share with us when actually China started to reform and what happened since then?
Thank you, Ms. Hani. Actually, the rise of China was started in 1978. At that time, China had economic reform. They changed to socialism with Chinese heritage state. The socialist market economy started after the World War II in order to radically increase the standard of living peoples in China. The system actually represents that the conservative political view that reduces values such as democracy, freedom, and human rights. And the next year, there's law of Sino.
What is actually law of Sino?
Law of Sino is where China welcomes a foreign investment in their country. But because of the socialist market economy, inflation became problematic in 1985, 1988, and 1992. There was inefficiency of the state sector. That's why, starting 1992, privatization began to accelerate in China. But for your information, before the jump started, the economy was heavily disrupted by the war against Japan and the Chinese Civil War from 1937 to 1949.
Wow, that's long time.
Yes, and afterwards, the economy largely stagnated and was disrupted by the Great Leap Forward famine, which almost killed 40 million people in China.
Wow, that's...
And the other thing is Cultural Revolution also disrupted the economy. So before the jump started, the economic performance of China was really poor in comparison with other East Asian countries. But then, after the privatization began in China, in 1994, there was an establishment of the ASEAN-China Joint Committee on Economic and Trade Cooperation. And as you all know that in 1997, there was Asian financial crisis. It decreased FDI and export in China, but China itself had huge reserve by its fixed currency and long-term investment. So China is not really affected at that time. And in 2001, China became a member of WTO. So indirectly, China became more market-oriented. And in 2005, the poverty rate is 2.5% in comparison with 1981, which was 53%, a huge decline in the poverty rate.
Yeah.
And in 2008, where global financial crisis hit, the government of China announced a 586 billion economic stimulus package to combat it in terms of infrastructure and social welfare. And the most interesting point is that in 2010, China surpassed Japan's economy and GDP increased more than tenfold since 1978.
Wow, so now China has overtaken Japan, even though China is still developing.
Yeah, as reported with International Monetary Fund, China has surpassed Japan in terms of GDP.
Okay, so that was so interesting and so new information for us, isn't it? So I guess the information we just get just now is a good